to jump on to share with you some things that typically you are not aware of as it relates to your insurance. And so I have another channel that I really talk about insurance in depth on, but I have not reached my number of subscribers that I'm supposed to have yet. And so I thought I'd bring this to my audience where I do have a substantial amount of people that tune in to listen to what we're talking about. So we're talking about business today, and I really want to dive into insurance because insurance really is an issue for a lot of people and they don't understand what they are signing up for. So if this is something that you would like to know, which I would think you would because it's talking about you, insurance is by law. You have to have auto insurance, liability for sure in most states. And so this typically can be applicable to you, or if it's not, you know somebody that it is. So again, stay tuned. And if you're not familiar with this channel, we talk about business, real estate, life, travel, all things related to lifestyle, and insurance is related to lifestyle. So let's get into deep nitty gritty, what we're going to talk about today. So you pay for insurance, and a lot of times you don't even know what you're paying for. And I know this to be true. I know this to be factual because people come to me every day and they have questions about insurance. They state to me they did not know their insurance was that high. They did not know they had an accident. They did not know the type of insurance. They're trying to get the cheapest insurance. And all of those things really need to be, a lot of times insurance companies won't explain them to you because they just don't. You know, I'm a broker. I have no allegiance to no company, any company. So my goal is always to get the best coverage for my clients. And if I can get the best coverage for my clients, I've done my job. I don't care what company you sign up with. We're affiliated with over 30 different companies that we're licensed to be able to share and provide their services. And so when I put your information in the radar, and whichever one gives me the best quote for your scenario, your budget, and your situation, that's who we go with. And so what people don't know is that a state minimum coverage may not be enough for you, depending on what state you're in. Most people, if you get liability insurance, liability only covers the other person if they hit you. It does not cover you. And so I always recommend full coverage. But if you own the car right out, a lot of times, you know, it may not be fundamentally financially lucrative for you to have full coverage on a car that you really don't that's old. A lot of times, majority of the times, if you have a lien on a car, they require you to have full coverage. If the car is paid for by cash, the only thing that you're required to have is whatever the state requires you to have. And in my state of Missouri, Illinois, and in most states we do business in, Georgia, you have to have liability insurance. So state minimum coverage may not be enough, and you definitely want to know while you're out there driving. And because being legally insured does not necessarily mean that you are adequately protected. I really have to emphasize that. People think they have enough insurance until they get into an accident. People think insurance is a scam until they get into an accident. It's not a scam when somebody hits you and you're out there without insurance, without a car, because you did not have insurance. So I always like to stress that. So just because you're asking for state minimum, keep in mind that may not be enough to fully cover you, because state minimum typically is 25,000, 50,000, and 25,000. If you were to get into an accident and somebody were to sue you, 25,000 majority of the time is not going to cover even the attorney fees, not even going to cover the lawsuit and things of that nature. So that's why it's important and why state minimum may not be enough. So you want to make sure you get with a provider, an insurance provider, a broker such as myself that can explain the different characteristics of insurance to make sure that you're fully covered, that you're always protected when you're out there driving. People drive crazy out here, and majority of the people that drive crazy, a lot of times they're not insured. And so as a responsible person, you want to make sure that you're covered just in case somebody hit you, and you don't have to worry about insurance. Full coverage doesn't necessarily mean that you're fully covered. A lot of times people come to me and they say, I want full coverage. But with full coverage, really liability, comprehensive, and collision is what the full package is. And sometimes there are exclusions and different things that kind of hold you back from that, and things such as gap, coverage and rental reimbursement, towing, all those things are not necessarily included in full coverage. I also like to make inference on the fact that when you get full coverage, please keep in mind, this is very important, full coverage outside of rental and towing, if you get full coverage or even just liability and you make a claim for a tow, that goes on your record as a claim being made. And so when I'm looking up insurance or whatnot, and they have a lot of claims, and some of those claims are from rental cars, I'm sorry, excuse me, from towing, that is a claim against you. A lot of times with these insurance providers too, sometimes you'll get into an accident, and if you don't have documentation and proof that it's not your fault, more than likely the police or the agency or whatnot, you'll find that it's on your record. And so you definitely want to pay attention to that. Full coverage doesn't always necessarily mean everything is covered, especially gap, rental, as well as towing. And I always advise my clients, try to get AAA instead of getting it on your insurance, because you're going to be paying more, and they pay us to tell you to get coverage for rental as well as for towing. But all in all, the bottom line is, my goal as a broker is to help you save money, and I'm going to tell you it's more cost effective for you to get a towing service outside of your insurance. Another thing I like to mention is a cheap quote isn't always the best quote. People look to save money. And when you are saving money, think about your driving record. Think about others out there that you are trying to protect yourself from, which is another driver. And so just because you get the cheap quote don't mean it's the best quote for you. It could honestly be the worst quote, because depending on who you're with, not all insurance carriers are created equally, just like all brokerages are not created equally. And so with that being said, you want to make sure that you compare the liability limits as well as the lower deductibles and the additional coverage that comes with that cheap plan, if that's what you get. You want to make sure you have the same limits, deductibles, and coverages across the board, because if you don't, you could simply just be paying less premium but not necessarily have the best results for you. Your deductible can dramatically change what happens after a claim. And so typically, when you're doing insurance, you have 1,000 comp. That's typically what we see. You'll pay more if you have a less comp claim and a less comprehensive claim. I very seldom see $500. Most people have 1,000. Some people even have 2,000. But it really depends on your lien holder and if you own the car free and clear, where we determine if you could get a deductible higher than the standard of $1,000. And so you definitely want to pay attention to that, because can you actually afford the loss after the $1,000 is taken away? Because insurance companies typically will pay you, say for instance, you got a policy $10,000, you have an accident, they're going to take that $1,000 off, which leaves you $9,000. Can you afford to pay that $1,000 if you were to get into an accident? So those are some things that you need to pay attention to, because just because the deductible can dramatically change what happens after a claim is made. The next one is you want a rate that isn't based on your driving record. And sometimes, depending on the state and the type of carrier that you go through, location, your driving experience, the claims, prior history, if you had insurance before you're getting insurance, the mileage, the type of vehicle that you're driving, the usage of the vehicle, where you're driving to and from certain jurisdictions, whether you're permitted to do what you're doing or whatnot. And then your credit. A lot of times people don't know, but your insurance is based upon your credit, where you live, again, your driving record. So all those things play a factor in what your rate is and how it's determined. Your zip code, how many things have happened in that area before you made a claim, before you get insurance. Your neighbor, how many times they made claims. All of those things are put into factor of what your rate is going to be. And yes, I know it's not fair, but that's how the industry is. You also may be missing some discounts. So pay attention to that. Ask your insurance carrier what type of discounts that are out there, because you could be missing some. If you have a home, you can do a bundle package. If you're renting, you can do a bundle package where you will get less, you will pay less because you're insuring a vehicle as well as your rental, as well as your home. So all of those motorcycles, boats, all those things. Try thinking bundle versus having a singular package where you're paying more, where you will pay less and you're getting more covered with the bundle package. So think about that. You could be missing some discounts. We also have discounts where it come from a good students. If you are a parent and you are insuring somebody that's just starting to drive, a child that's just starting to drive, you could get a deeper discount if they are on the honor roll, things of that nature. If you got good driving record, you get discounts for that. So it's so many things that you could be missing that you typically are not paying attention to. And last but not least, I always advise people every 6 months, if you're on a 6 month plan, before you renew, get some new quotes, because you could just be out of favor renewing and you could be paying more money. You could save money by getting requoted. I do believe brokerages are the best alternative to go, and we go with the top insurers out there, the Nationwides and the Liberty Mutuals and things of that nature. But you could be saving money going through a brokerage than you can going directly to the carrier themselves. The carriers hire us as brokerages to be able to get the word out there about their company, and again to get them the best rates. And a lot of times we are incentivized, to run multiple quotes so that we can get you the best rate. And those carriers a lot of times want us to send you to them. But again, bottom line, I always go, well, what's best for my client when they're saving money? Again, bundling together, making sure you have a great driving record, and that bottom line, you're getting the best deal and the best quote for your money. And so if you are a licensed provider, feel free to reach out to us at 877-309-5588. We are hiring for skilled individuals who currently are licensed, and those that are not licensed that are thinking about getting licensed. And then also, if you are someone who is seeking insurance, and we're licensed in about 15 or 16 states, and we can cover you. Right now, the main ones I know we do business in are Tennessee, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, Illinois. I think we're licensed in Kansas too. But give us a call, 877-309-5588, and we would love to give you a quote so we can help you save some money. So thanks again for being here. Blessings and peace. Until next time. Take care.